Hey everyone, welcome back to This Week with Admit. I'm Graham Richmond, the co-founder of Admit. And this week is a big week. You know, the FT, the Financial Times, have released their MBA rankings. And I haven't seen them yet, actually. This is being recorded prior to that, but I did want to talk about those rankings. So the first thing I wanted to just really put out there is that the rankings reflect the methodology of the ranking itself and not necessarily the reality. And in this case with the FT, that methodology has evolved quite a bit over time. So I wanted to talk about that. You know, the FT is measuring, I would argue, a broader definition of value. They've moved beyond, say, salary and placement to include things like ESG teaching, carbon footprint, gender equity, international mobility. There are a lot of different things, and these are legitimate indicators of how schools are doing, but they definitely reward some models of MBA education more than others. You know, this isn't good or bad, it's just a different kind of lens, and I want people to keep that in mind as they look at these rankings. One thing that really stands out to me is this measure of international mobility, which I think can unintentionally penalize the US programs. So many US MBAs place their graduates in the United States. This is kind of a known thing, and the FT might interpret that as showing less global mobility on the part of these schools. But in reality, the US is where many international students want to live and work because it's sort of at the forefront of things like artificial intelligence or tech or finance. There's always a lot happening right in the States. And so staying in one country doesn't necessarily mean less mobility, but that's how it sort of gets measured in this instance. Another thing I wanted to mention is that survey participation in the FT is a hidden driver, right? So the FT depends heavily on alumni surveys. Some elite schools actually struggle to hit the response thresholds that are required. So a school could drop off or disappear for kind of administrative reasons rather than, it's not like the school's no longer in the marketplace as a choice for candidates, just that they didn't meet the threshold. For example, a global ranking that is missing Stanford, which was the case last year, that should raise eyebrows, right? I mean, Stanford is arguably one of the most selective MBA programs in the world. If it's absent, it's probably a reminder that the rankings are partly about methodology and not purely about who's best, right? And that's just sort of the way of things. And now I will say at Admit, we see decision wire outcomes on our site where people are posting where they got in, what sort of scholarships they received, where they're going to go, and what they want to do with their career. And so we get to see what applicants choose when they hold multiple offers. And that's really interesting. But one of the things I'll say is we see routinely people behaving in ways that go against the sort of FT rankings. We see people selecting Harvard over a school that maybe was ranked above Harvard in the FT ranking. And that happens over and over again. And that's certainly not a knock on the schools that are being selected in those instances, but it shows that rankings don't always match how applicants behave. Rankings are kind of measuring scores. What we observe at Admit is sort of the reality of candidate behavior. So in any event, to wrap this up, the FT ranking is certainly valuable, especially for global comparisons, but applicants should probably just think of it as one perspective, not kind of the end all be all. And the best school, obviously, is the one that matches your goals, that fits with you culturally, and meets your ROI requirements. So that's it for this week with Admit. We will see you next time.